91.7.
Good morning and welcome to Your Women Radio WFM 91.7. I am Sumto Titilayo Ajama. Thank you again for joining me today on Your Women Radio WFM 91.7. Today we're having a panel discussion titled A Unified Nigeria in Challenging Times of Security. A Unified Nigeria in Challenging Times of Insecurity. 1,743 Nigerians were reportedly killed in the first quarter of 2022 due to insecurity, according to the Cable Index. Other data across board, national and international, have shown that we are losing track of the numbers of Nigerians that are killed due to insecurity, as this is seemingly a daily occurrence. As a people, as a nation, we have faced different challenges at different times, but the level of insecurity in the Nigeria of today has affected our economic growth, development, and peace. The abduction of the Chibok girls, Leah Sharibu, endless attacks and killings, loss of lives, kidnapping, properties, the pain, the anger, the frustration, unspoken rivalry, segregation, etc., due to tribal differences and many more, have led to huge setbacks. Today on Women.7, we have gathered Nigerians from different sectors to proposition a solution. The idea is, we know the challenges placed before us, but we must find a way for a unified Nigeria in these challenging times of insecurity. We must speak in one voice to create or recreate a Nigeria that is safe, secure, and peaceful, because that is the only way to foster economic growth and development. A unified Nigeria, a safe Nigeria, a peaceful Nigeria. Once again, my name is Sumto Titilayo Ajama, and you're welcome to the panel discussion titled A Unified Nigeria in Challenging Times of Insecurity. My panelists are Tanwa Ashiru, CEO Bulwark Intelligence Solution and U.S. Air Force veteran; Kolawole Oluwadare, Deputy Director, Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP. I also have Bridget Osakwe Osifo, National Coordinator, West Africa Network for Peacebuilding, WANEP. Also with me is Elias Yahaya Kayok, Public Affairs Analyst and Media Director, Digital Reasoning Studio. Also on the panel is Tumbo Oladipo, Public Affairs Analysis. And finally, not the last person I'm mentioning is Olarinwaju Suraju, Chairman, Human and Environmental Development Agenda, header. Now the panel discussion begins. I have to say good morning and thank you very much for joining us on the panel discussion. Good morning, everyone. Good morning and thank you very much for joining us. Good morning, can we all hear me? Okay, I have to say that we cannot take calls on this particular discussion today because of the delicateness in which we're talking about this, and of course, you can still contribute. To do that, you have to send a text or a WhatsApp message to 0703 175 6537. 0703 175 6537. I want to begin the conversation, but I want to start with Olarinwaju Suraju, Chairman, Human and Environmental Development Agenda, header. Good morning.
Morning, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you very much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. I want to ask about the recent happening about a month ago that you and your wife were attacked in your house. First, I want to say how sorry I am to hear that, and I cannot imagine the horror that must have happened in that time. You reside in a community that is supposedly secured, and this still happened. My first question is, how did we get to the state that we're in when we're living in communities that are supposedly secure, but we're truly not secure? How do we get to this state, and what should we be doing to have a truly protected Nigeria, to have a Nigeria that is truly protected?
Thank you very much. Like you said, I live in an estate of about over 200 houses. And incidentally, and also interestingly, the attack was only targeted at my house out of the over 200 houses, and the assailants found their way into the estate. Coming in most likely individually during the hours when the security check was low at the main gate, because it's also a gated estate. Anyway, and on their escape with my car, they went to one of the gates. We had about four of them in the estate. Went to one that is really manned, or when manned is just a one person there, and there's a padlock to lock the gate. The gate man who happens to be there at that point was physically assaulted, was hit in the head with the boot of the gun. And the industrial cutter that was used to compromise the fence wire for my house, and the same thing for my living room, was used to also cut the padlock to the main gate for them to easily escape with the vehicle and other things that they also carted away from the house. But we generally experience in the country, and it is most unfortunate that our responses, it is just like we have developed a kind of thick skin towards insecurity issues. And we only take it seriously when we hear the number. It is not just about death now. So before, it is we were then concerned about attack. Then suddenly we're not really bothered about attack as such anymore. Now we are bothered. Then we got bothered about when life is lost. Just like one or two lives, but perturbed when it is just about 2 or 3 lives. It's only when you hear tens, 20s of lives that are lost before we get to respond and show some measure of concern. And unfortunately, the political landscape, and deliberately from the part of the elite, is to use some of this as part of the distractions. When it started with the Boko Haram, and this was some of the political elites were of the opinion, oh, this is about the North, so allow the North to deal with themselves, and then they should be fine. I mean, if they are killing themselves, then it is none of our business. And they introduce that level of dichotomy and diversion between Nigerians, making people so very unconcerned, very, very sadly, unfortunately so, really bothered about what is happening to the other Nigerian. It was like we're living, not even like neighboring countries. We're not living like brothers like in Africa. I mean, we're worried about what happens in Benin Republic. We're usually worried about what happened in Ghana, but we degenerated to the extent that we're not bothered about what happened in the Southwest or in the North, as long as it is safe in the Southwest, and that it is the most unfortunate thing that the political elites have introduced into our lifestyle. And gradually, until the Boko Haram thing spread into Abuja, it was then that people realized that, oh no, this is not about the North, and it is not only limited to the North, but it's already spreading to other places. It's the same thing now with the political attack and killings that are also ongoing across the country. And without care, without the conscious repudiation of what is happening, we're likely to have it worse going into election. If you know how desperate quite a number of the political gladiators have been in the last couple of weeks and months, if you see the amount of horse trading, if you see the amount of accusation and allegations, then you can tell. And I'm sure also part of the investment. You heard recently in the news, you must have read about the Attorney General who wanted to be just the governor in Kebbi State, reported to have been doling out several number of SUVs worth over £1 billion to people who are considered as political leaders and capable of assisting in achieving it. So where you are having that heavy investment into a venture, then you can be rest assured that the investors are not just going to allow their investment to go to naught or to go to waste, and they will do everything possible to achieve the purpose of which the investment is engaged.
Thank you very much, Olarinwaju. I asked about how we got to this state and what we need to be doing to protect Nigeria. I'd like you to just answer that very briefly, what we need to be doing that we're not already doing or that we're doing and can do a lot better to protect Nigeria, very briefly.
I mean, what we're really not doing is that people are not really also getting involved in the situation. The level of apathy is most unfortunate, and that is not helpful for us as a country. We need to engage security issues the way we engage our normal everyday lives. The security is not left for the police, especially when you have such a compromised police force, under-resourced and also under-motivated police force. You can have effective policing and security where the judiciary is not also up and standing in terms of protecting the vulnerable people and also holding accountable those who have run foul of the law. What you have is where the means that you can muster will assist you in escaping justice. So where people have the sense of impunity that they can escape from justice, then we can have security in the system. And the ruling elite and political elite are almost the same thing. So as long as they are protected by the special police force unit or by the security apparatus and the rest of that, and their families are out of the country, they are comfortable, they are fine. But it is for us, the citizens, that must also understand the need for us to engage as much as possible. We can't throw our hands up in the air. It is better for us to just leave the country. But if we want anything to happen, the more that we pretend and think that it would only happen from the police and the military, the more we keep deceiving ourselves. It must be conscious, either by speaking up almost consciously and everything, either by ensuring that we report the situation, either by we're also exposing those who are we see within our community who are living above their means. Then we would be talking about having situations that would be not conducive for criminals to hibernate. But
Definitely.
If we keep also endorsing them, patronizing them, and also participating in their acts, we would be fooling ourselves, thinking that there will be someone from Abuja who would come to protect us in Lagos.
Thank you, Olarinwaju. Thank you so much. I want to direct my attention to Sumbo right now. Looking at the recent happenings, we know that Nigeria is in a huge state of insecurity. Is there anything that can be done about it? That's why we're having this conversation. These happenings have been going on for a while, and fingers are being pointed in different directions by different people, by different regions at different points in time. Do you think tribalism has given room for this extent of rise of insecurity? Do you think that tribalism has played any role in the rise in insecurity in the Nigeria that we live in today? Hi, Sumbo, good morning.
Good morning once again, and thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome.
My answer to that would be a quick absolutely. In a situation where you have a country that is as divided as Nigeria is today, you cannot write off the kind of insecurities that we have. And I'll explain that very quickly. Now, the foundation which every nation ought to be based is on the principle of justice, truth, equity, and when you have that, being as eroded as it has been eroded in Nigeria, what you're going to have is what we're saying now. You're going to find a situation of, suspicion, and that is very, very rife in our country. We're suspicious of one another, and then the people also would lack trust. We don't trust ourselves. We don't even trust the next person next to us, and so when you have all of these things, we don't believe anything anybody says. When you have all of these indices coming together, you would have the situation of insecurity that we have in Nigeria. Let me also say something. When the issue of, insurgency became very strong in the country, you found out that one of the first things that we did was to label the persons who commit this crime, and then when we label them, using one of the tribes in Nigeria. Now, I'm not saying that, that particular tribe has not been complicit in these things, but the truth of the matter is it's also a reflection of our disunity that is making every one of us point our fingers at one particular section. Because the truth of the matter is not every member of that tribe that is evil. Just like it's not every member of the other tribes that are evil. And in time, going forward, we have seen that it has cut across so many different types in Nigeria. There have been times we've caught people, they are from the south, sometimes from the east, and it cuts across. But we have decided to label a particular tribe as being responsible. That is what we find when there's a lot of injustice going on in the land, when there's a lot of, inequity going on in the land, no fair play. And so that disunity will create insecurity in the nation. It just is something that should be expected. So that would be my take on that. And going further, what are the things that we're trying to put in place to check tribalism? I think that, left to me in Nigeria, I'm not sure we're really ready. I remember it was the late Justice Okuta during that, what did we call it now, that kind of reconciliation meeting that we had sometimes ago in Nigeria, who said that peradventure, the greatest problem that we have as a people is that there is no true Nigerian. I know of the Igbo man, I know of the Yoruba man, the Hausa man, the Fulani man, but I'm yet to see the Nigerian. So definitely, tribalism will cause a lot of insecurity, and it is causing it.
I appreciate that response, particularly in the way you explained it and with your landing. Thank you very much, Sumbo. This is 17 minutes past 11 on your Women Radio WFM 91.7, and we're having the panel discussion on a unified Nigeria in challenging times of insecurity. A unified Nigeria in challenging times of insecurity. Yes, you can join the conversation by sending a text or a WhatsApp message to 0703 175 6537. 0703 175 6537. My name is Sumto Titilayo Ajama, and I have with me 6 formidable panelists that I will introduce as time goes on in the course of the conversation, or that I will reintroduce, in the course of the conversation. Now, I do have to ask, and this one I'm directing to Elias. The reason I'm asking this is particularly in reference to Sumbo's landing point, where she says that we like to point fingers to a particular sect of people, a particular tribe in Nigeria. And to be honest, it seems like this tribe is highlighted a lot when it comes to conversations around insecurity, largely because this part of the country, northern Nigeria to be specific, is hugely under attack. What do you think has contributed to the extent of insecurity in northern Nigeria? And what do you think the rest of Nigeria should be doing to support northern Nigeria?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Thank you again.
Happy to be here. Amazingly, I'm actually sitting right in Kafachan, the heartland of Kaduna State. I like what the first speaker said. Insecurity in Nigeria was first and foremost seen as a regional problem. And because it was seen as a regional problem, the whole of Nigeria began to say, let the North fight their own problem. And this raises for me the clash of identity, clash of ethnicity, personality clashes. Security in northern Nigeria is a very critical problem because of the huge population that you find here. in northern Nigeria. And you have a lot of ethnic groups. First and foremost, northern Nigeria occupies a very large landmass. Niger State alone sits on over 46,000 square kilometers. It's like putting some region of the country together in one.
Absolutely.
I saw Toro local government alone in Bauchi State sitting on 6,930 square kilometers. That is twice the size of the entire city of Lagos State as a whole. So first, insecurity in the north is because of the huge nature of this region. Two, the place of education is also critical in the issue of insecurity in this country. My last speaker spoke about, if you look at the indices in education, these are people who still do a lot to get people to be enrolled in formal education. You know, education has a way of placing a higher value to life. So if the huge population here is educated, in the course of this education, you will see the value for life. So first and foremost, insecurity here is as a result of the fact that a lot of people do not know the value to life. And this can come from several factors. Now, we have leaders, both the elite, both religious, both community leaders. The question we always ask, what do you teach your followers? If you teach your followers the value for life, they will go out there to kill. They will go there to destroy. So here in the north, we are battling the issue of education. We are battling the issue of poverty. We are battling the issue of unemployment. We are having social structures that themselves are enemies of security. Then, before now, we have social structures where if a new person comes into a community, the Meanguas, as we call them, the village head, the district head, have a way of knowing if a new person has come into the society. We've lost those values. People is as if it's not my business. That used to be, I'm my brother's keeper, I'm the protector of the next house. We've lost that value. People now do things the way they want. And whereas there's supposed to be an alert race of insecurity, things just come and they sweep the whole community without knowing. So first and foremost, these are some of the key issues. For the other part of Nigeria, like the first speaker said,
yes,
insecurity is the responsibility of the entire nation. For me, any part of the country I go to, I feel comfortable. I'm part of that community. I'm part of that society. I eat what they eat. I drink what they drink. And I feel at home. So if the other part of Nigeria sees the fact that whatever happened to the north has a ripple effect to the other parts of Nigeria, then we owe a responsibility to stake it out. The South, the West have the media. Let's get the true fact from people who will not be biased to tell us the truth. And we speak this out to the world to hear so that these things can be addressed. So for me, we need love. Stretch your love down here to the north. Stretch your love to the ordinary man here on the street of the north. Stretch your educational support to the north. Stretch your economic support to the north. And if people are gainfully involved in doing things that are positive, insecurity to a large extent will be dealt with. Let me stop here for a while.
I appreciate the response. Thank you very much, Elias. And about the things that contribute to insecurity and what other regions, other people can do to support northern Nigeria. This is a call to everyone listening, regardless of your tribe, regardless of your region, regardless of what language you speak, what religion what faith you're a part of, regardless of all of that. Something that is very, very important is that we are one Nigeria. And if we just sit back and do nothing when we're hearing these things happen to other people, our fellow brothers and sisters, our fellow Nigerians in other regions, then before you know it, we will develop a huge level of desensitization that, oh, it doesn't affect me. And the next thing would be, when it does affect you, where do we go from there? Because the truth of the matter is, insecurity is a general challenge in Nigeria, and we must collectively find a way to deal with it, find a way to fix the situation for ourselves and generations yet unborn. Thank you very much to every listener on Zoom, Women Radio 91.7, as well as listeners on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you very much for listening. And if you do have questions, please feel free to send a text or a WhatsApp message to 0703 175 6537, and also drop your questions on the Zoom chat as well. I'm going to read this one very quickly. I'm just hearing of a unified Nigeria. Please kindly let's be honest and stop deceiving ourselves. Energy and stop wasting our time, energy and resources to talk about a united Nigeria. All right, so what this person is basically trying to say is a unified Nigeria is lip service. There's no equality, fairness, equity, and justice. We are just, paying lip service to the context of a unified Nigeria. That was not a question. That was coming from Ola from Ifo. I believe he was just stating his personal view on the concept of a unified Nigeria. To a large extent, that is the reason that we're having this conversation. So Ola, if you keep listening, I believe that somewhere in between the conversation, you will take one or two things that will encourage you and maybe change your thought process when it comes to the idea of a unified Nigeria. So I want to direct this to Tanwa. Tanwa is the CEO of Bulwark Intelligence Solutions, and she's also a U.S. Air Force veteran. Tanwa, the reason I'm asking you this particular question is because it has a background concerning the Nigerian military. Now, a school of thought criticized the high number of military personnel from one region as the reason for the high level of insecurity. They have posited that our military should represent the various regions in Nigeria to enable the fight against insecurity without fear or favor or any form of partiality. What is your position on this as we advocate for a unified Nigeria? Good morning, Tanwa.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me on this panel. So I actually agree with that school of thought. I was actually recently at a function, and the function had a lot of state governors that were there, senators, top leaders in the country. And I remember, this particular governor said when we were giving security recommendations, he said his recommendation was that we need to hire more local men from his community, from his state, to join the military so that they can get trained in the military and then come back to that local state, to now, serve and be deployed there and bring about security or be a part of the military structure that's there. And when he said it, I shook my head and I said, no, unfortunately, that's not going to work. Let me tell you why it's not going to work. Nigeria is a very diverse country. In doing that, you're going to have a roster of military personnel that are heavily from one state versus all the other states. And if there's anything we know right now about the country, one of the listeners, Ola, said it, that, that idea of one Nigeria is very shaky right now. Everybody is sort of very shaky with regards to tribe and all that. So you cannot heavily skew members of the security forces from one region or from one part of the country or the other. And I think we're just really going about it the wrong way. There's a lot of diversity in the country, and I think this diversity must be reflected across the various security agencies, the various federal organizations. Now, here's the real issue, though, is why do we keep bringing the military to solve internal security challenges? That is not their job. The military is supposed to focus on protecting us from threats to the sovereign state of Nigeria.
So international threats, then?
Exactly. So, for example, look at what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. What that means is that if another country comes to the shores of Nigeria right now and says, you know what, we're about to take over Nigeria, who is going to fight for us? Is it the same military that have been overwhelmed with internal security challenges? So I think we're also going about it the wrong way. We're involving them too much in internal threats that when the real external threat that could be a threat to the sovereignty of this country comes, we might not actually be able to defend ourselves against that. Internal security is supposed to be handled primarily by the Nigerian Police Force, the Nigerian Civil Defense Corps, and other local structures that are internal security structures that are in place. But instead, and don't get me wrong, we know the challenges of the police force. One of the speakers here said it. We know that they're underfunded, they're poorly trained. In fact, we might not even have enough men. And why is it that we don't have enough men? They'll tell you that there's no money to recruit, yet we've been increasing the budget. So it's just really mismanagement of the resources that are allocated to the security forces right now. We understand these challenges. And that's the reason why I am one of those proponents that say, look, I know with mouth, we're always talking about community policing, local policing. The truth is that this state police is really what we need. Now, oftentimes, and I've been in a situation where I was with, again, a lot of heads of different states and different organizations, and that room was very divided on this topic. You had a large number of governors that insisted that state policing has to happen because they need more control over the security structures in their states. They understand the local challenges that they're dealing with, and they know how they can properly deploy that to ensure that it's taken care of. Whereas you have the other half of the governors that said, I'm sorry, but as far as we're concerned, Nigeria is not ready for that, because if we had state policing, many of them pointed and said, me, for example, I won't be in power because the incumbents would have used the structures of state police to push me out. And I sit here and I say, you know what, that's just, we're going about it the wrong way. We understand that there are challenges, and this is why we bring up things called checks and balances. It's about brainstorming and saying, you know what, these are the challenges we have in state police. So what structures can we put in place to make sure that the state will not abuse it? And that's how we're supposed to go about this conversation. Let me tell you why. You might not realize it, but many states are already running local state security networks. A lot of states are already doing it. We've already seen with Amotekun, which is more on a regional basis, but I can count so many other states are doing it. Even in the Northeast, at the end of the day, the Civilian Joint Task Force are made up of civilian local vigilantes. They're the ones that go on missions and on operations with the military, with the government security forces. Look at even the issue that we're dealing with in the Northwest with banditry in Zamfara State and Sokoto and so on. Part of it started because of the vigilante that they set up, because when there's no government presence, when people are being killed and there's no police showing up, there's no one showing up, the local members of the community come together and say, no, we're going to do something about it, which is what they did. But then it now started becoming more of a targeted tribal attack, meaning we know that most people from a certain tribe tend to cause this problem. So as a result, we're going to target everybody from that tribe. And like one of the speakers said earlier, you cannot just blanket and say, because this person is from the Niger Delta, he's a militant. That's not done. And so because of that mindset, they started targeting a specific tribe. That tribe, again, porous borders. That tribe then decided, you know what, we're going to go outside the borders of Nigeria, bring in reinforcement and fight back. And now we've just gotten ourselves into a complex mess.
Situation.
Now, very complex. Now, also the major issue here is this poor coordination that we keep talking about. And I know that, you know, we talk about it all the time, while government security forces don't speak to each other and their coordination is very poor. But let me explain a little bit about how that is now really affecting us. Just recently, I think everybody is aware of the news, something that happened, I think, in Imo State, and it was a conflict, attack between the Nigerian police force and the Nigerian Civil Defense Corps. And these are two agencies that I just mentioned that I said are supposed
security agencies, definitely.
With internal security. What happens when they're both fighting each other? It's not right. Not only that, this problem of the Northwest, again, that we're talking about, and even in the Northeast, has a huge angle of it, has to do with the insecurity of our borders. Now, I sit here and I ask you, who is responsible for securing Nigeria's borders? Who? Because one of the major things we're seeing, all these RPGs that were coming in, there are reports of foreign fighters that came into Sokoto at some point that everybody visibly recognized that these people are from Mali, they're from Niger, they're not Nigerians. So you have these issues coming in unchallenged, inside the border, outside the border, nobody is stopping it. Who is responsible for that? I'll tell you who. It's supposed to be our Nigeria Customs Service. But guess what Customs believes their primary goal is? It's not border security, it's revenue generation. So again, you will find that a lot of the issues that we're having are stemming from strategic problems. These are strategic problems that are supposed to be taken care of with leadership, proper leadership with vision, and then multiple layers of implementation, multiple layers of coordination, and just really, taking a local look, targeting and taking care of security from the local space. Understanding that at the end of the day, is that man that is from that community that understands his own forest, and he's the one that will be able to handle and show you where and how to solve the security challenges. So again, it's a multifaceted problem. We cannot pinpoint one single thing to say this is Nigeria's problem, solve this, and we'll take care of everything else. No, that's not the case. Okay. And if we don't know, and if your speakers don't understand how, even within our security industry right now, we are very, very, very concerned. And I'll tell you why. I was looking at the data the other day, and attacks in the Northeast, in Borno State specifically, have reduced drastically. On the surface, we should all be rejoicing. This is good news. Boko Haram is finally being decimated. But guess what? They have relocated from the Northeast now to Niger State. I think Mr. Elias was talking about Niger State, the vast expanse of land, huge chunks of that territory that are not being manned by any security forces whatsoever. And now you have these terrorists that have decided, you know what, we're going to shift ground and move to the middle of Nigeria. What that means is that we're now seeing attacks in Kogi State, in Kwara State. So people in the South that thought, oh, you're far removed from the Northeast problem, it has come right to the middle of Nigeria and can spread from there. Okay. So it's very challenging, and I think the sooner we can get our act together, work more on a local level, give a bit more power to the state governments and responsibility to the state governors and government to handle security in their states, possibly recruit more people, have more presence on the ground, and and put checks and balances in place to make sure they don't abuse it for political purposes. Until we get our act together on this, Nigeria is on a very scary trajectory right now.
Thank you very much, Tawa. Thank you for answering so in such a detailed form. I appreciate that. This is still your Women Radio, WFM 91.7, and my name is Sumto Titilayo Ajama, and we're still in the panel discussion. We're still discussing a unified Nigeria in challenging times of insecurity. A unified Nigeria in challenging times of insecurity. You can send your contributions, reactions, questions to 0703 175 6537. 0703 175 6537, or you can drop your message on the Zoom chat. We're also live on Facebook and YouTube at WFM 917, and you can also watch and share the link to as many people so as to contribute to this larger conversation. With me today, my panelists are Tanwa Ashiri, CEO of Bulwark Intelligence Solution and U.S. Air Force veteran. I also have Kolawole Oluwadare, Deputy Director, Socioeconomic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP. Also, Bridget Osakwe Usifo, National Coordinator, West Africa Network for Peacebuilding, WANEP. Also, I have with me Elias Yahaya Kayok, Public Affairs Analyst and Media Director, Digital Reasoning Studio. Also, Sumba Oladipo, Public Affairs Analyst, and Olanrewaju Suraji, Chairman, Human and Environmental Development Agenda, HEDA. Now, I want to, in light of Tawa's landing point, where she said they have moved to the middle of the country, by which they now have access to multiple areas, unchallenged. I want to ask you now, and this one I'm directing this one to you. By you now, I'm directing this one to you, and I'm talking to Bridget specifically at the moment. And the reason I'm doing this is because women and children, a lot of the times, are usually directly or indirectly placed at the very middle of conflict. They're the ones who bear the highest consequences. They're the ones who the shoe pinches the most in the middle of insecurity or any kind of conflict, actually. So I want you to talk about the role that women can play as agents of peace in these times of insecurity. What role can women play as agents of peace, or what role can they play in general, particularly when it comes to the extent in which insecurity has taken hold of the country, Nigeria?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm happy to be here, and it's my pleasure to contribute to the conversations that are going on.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm looking at it from the perspective of women knowing the cost of violence. All of us have talked about how women and children bear the greatest brunt. But at times, I must tell you that it's not every time that women are just victims. At times, women are players. We must have that at the back of our minds. Like we saw women becoming suicide bombers. And in one of our researches, we found out that women transport arms. At times, women inspire their men towards violence. I'm giving this background so that we know that they are not just victims and that they have important role in issues of peace and security. And that when peace building and peace efforts are being negotiated and being talked about, they should also be considered. Because when we continue to work with 50% of our population, when we continue to work with one hand, when we have two hands, what it means is that we are working at half of our capacity. So generally, we know that women hold communities together. So when violence erupts, the responsibility of basic survival and care falls on the women. I'll give you simple examples from the work that we do. That in the Niger Delta, when that bomb blast came and people were running helter-skelter, women were carrying their children, the men ran away, women were carrying their children and running. There was a particular issue where the woman was running with her children and she remembered her mother-in-law, an old woman that stayed with them. Meanwhile, the husband whose mother is in the house had run away, but the woman came back for her mother-in-law. It's a simple example, but it tells a great deal about women's consideration in times of conflict and what women can do in contributing to peace. And because women are not allowed in power structure, most times the solutions that they have within them are lost. So those solutions that are within or outside the boxes are lost. And so again, when we come to recommendation, we need to consider having the voices of women in issues of peace building because their voices are critical. They will raise priorities that are not considered by men. They will raise concerns. They will raise issues that are not hitherto considered. So it is important that we have those recognition of the women's voices. And that when any conflict happens, it is the women that first of all respond in any community. During the COVID, we saw how women came out. Some women, even in Lagos, here, organized and started cooking for people in the streets. And they have their own ways of responding. And so, it is important that their perspectives in peace building is considered. Their fingers are on the pulse of the society. They know who, they know how, they know what to do. And when such pulses are excluded, there's something going wrong that must be considered. And it is in recognition of this that the UN Secretary General, in their resolution 1325, said that women must participate in peace building. Women must be a part of the conversations of peace. Women must be partners in issues of relief and recovery. And women must be present at peace support operations. I hear Tawa talking about internal and external security. It is important that the role that women can play in those structures are recognized and put on board, because we do have our different capacities. And one thing that I appreciated very well that she talked about in her presentation was about system strengthening.
Definitely.
We need to strengthen our structures. Our institutions need to be strengthened and taken into issues of gender equality. When we are looking at women and men working together to uphold this country, women and men, boys and girls working together for peace of our generality, not for one section of the country. So what it means is that we know our brothers and sisters and our daughters, and that we know how we feel when we lose them. So women take these aspects, mostly when, generally, women are considered as second class, and that they are not powerful enough, and they are not dangerous, and they are not able to reach out in some form of violence. But we do know, between you and I, who have land in this field, know that women have those capacities.
Definitely.
And if they have those capacities, why not? Why not we leave those stereotypes that place women behind the curtain and begin to harness the capacity of women to contribute to nation building and peace building? And I think that when we identify these issues and know how we begin to respond to them, it is very important, because when we are talking about the role of women, we're not just talking about in the conflict situation, from the domestic violence that happen in the families, whether it is husband to wife or brother to sister or family members. It is important that we build peace even in the period where we call peaceful area. In Nigeria, we do not even have anything that we call a peaceful environment now, because we are all awash. I agree with Larry when he said that we have lost our humanity, that we are no longer moved when you hear 38 dead, 40 dead. We are no longer moved. And so it is important that we begin to protect our girl child, begin to protect our women, right from the home to the community, to the outer space, in the political spaces, and even in peace building processes.
Thank you very much, Bridget. Thank you.
It is important that the structures we have, either in the economic sphere, and the last one that I'm going to talk about is about the social sphere, because we need to have social security, that we attend to issue of poverty, that we talk about issue of education, that we talk about health systems, that we talk about food security, for us to have a complete set of security. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Bridget. Thank you so much. The part of your rendition or speech now, where you said women also can be the ones inciting their husbands, they can be in terms of your research, that you've seen that some of these women are actually the suicide bombers and all of that. I think I wanted to ask at that point that, would you say that a lesser amount of women are the ones who do this, and more women are usually at the brunt of conflict? Because I think more women are the ones who actually suffer. I think this will just be maybe a relative amount of women who have been, by one form or another, maybe brainwashed or conditioned into thinking that this is right, and so they join this. Would you say that more women more women pay the consequences of conflict as opposed to initiators or fellow players in conflict?
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. I just brought that to explain the fact that women are also involved in conflict. But of course, I agree with you that more women bear the brunt of conflict. If you go to the IDP camps, you will see more women. Over 90% of them are women. So more women bear the brunt of conflict. And when you see women as suicide bombers, they are being used, not intentional.
Yes, I think I can agree with that. I can agree with that. Thank you so much.
They are being used, but not intentional.
Thank you very much, Bridget. This is a message coming in from Abiola Akiodia Folobi via the Zoom chat, and saying, I agree system strengthening and amplifying the need to restructure and would promote peace, basically. So, yes, that's one message. There's another text that's coming in now, and let me read that. This one is coming from Lillian from Ogun State, who is saying, my contribution is that the insecurity in this country can be better tackled when we start to see ourselves as one Nigeria. What affects one geopolitical zone affects all. Thank you for that, Lillian. Thank you for that, Abiola, as well. Yes, Abiola, thank you very much. Now, this is 10 minutes to 12 on your Women Radio, WFM 91.7, Nigeria's only radio station for women and their families. I'm Somto Titilayo Ajama, and we're discussing today in the panel discussion, a unified Nigeria in challenging times of insecurity. A unified Nigeria in challenging times of insecurity. We're streaming this live on Facebook and on YouTube, so you can go on our handle at WFM917 to connect and join the conversation. You can also send a text or a WhatsApp message to 0703 175 6537. 0703 175 6537, or you can drop your message on the Zoom chat. This one is coming from Priscilla Uziobafo, who says, anyone has the capacity for violence. Even children can be socialized to perpetrate violence. We, however, know that children and women constitute a larger number of victims, and the data is clear both at national and local levels. That's very important, and that bears repetition, particularly in line with everything that Bridget has said. So I want to draw Kolawole's attention now. Kolawole, thank you very much. Good morning. And yes, thank you very much for joining us. Kolawole is the Deputy Director, Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP. And if you've been sued the federal government over the failure of the federal government to protect the rights, influenced the move by the federal government, which was in the news this morning as well, saying that the Abuja-Kaduna train attack. So I was asking if maybe the suit by SERAP may have influenced them to come out to say that. But our analyst this morning said, may, but to a large extent, he doesn't think that carries any bearing to that. He thinks that it plays activism. How effective do you think this method is in holding the government accountable?
Thank you very much. Can I call you Somto?
Yes, please.
I'm sorry, I would crave your indulgence to leave my camera off.
Not a problem.
All right. This method we've chosen is because we are law-abiding citizens. So first and foremost, before being incorporated as a non-government organization, otherwise called the civil society organizations, we are made up of Nigerians who have a civic obligation, constitutionally also, to be law-abiding and to follow the laws of the land in whatever we do. And that is why the constitutional provisions says clearly that the judiciary, as an arm of government, is vested with that power. And it's also a responsibility to adjudicate between citizens, and that can also be among citizens, between citizens and government, and even between government agencies, which is why you see the state government go to court against the federal government and all. So we are doing this because we actually believe more in the rule of law, unfortunately, more than public officers and institutions, which is not a good thing. You will know that. So the alternative to the rule of law, like we all know, will be chaos, and it would not favor anyone. So we prefer to submit these issues before the court, the judiciary, that will determine who is right and who is wrong. And ultimately, we do know that the courts themselves make laws. They make laws, in the pronouncement of courts become the judicial yardstick for everything that comes after. And so in this instance, with the one you mentioned about the Kaduna train attack, the law is clear on the face of it. The Nigerian government is, the task of the Nigerian government, starting from the president to the councillors, is well set out. The Constitution says that the security and welfare of people shall be the primary purpose of government. If that is the primary purpose of government, you would ask me, why was that attack not prevented? Why is it more than a month after the attacks, nothing has been done by government? And you will recall, it is the same government that used this same provision of the Constitution about security to block the SIM lines of over 72 million Nigerians who blocked telecommunications in some states.
Over NIN and barring the
Yes. And so why have they not taken steps? To prevent is one. then to rescue and get them back is the second step. And so we've seen this as a failure of government. Who has caused this in the first place? Knowing fully well that a larger part of the insecurity we face is basically socioeconomic in nature. And so they have failed in that initial responsibility to provide the basic minimum, which has spelled out education, health, and the other things that would make life meaningful and bring insecurity to the barest minimum, and then fail to prevent this particular attack. I've seen public officers say in the open that they've had knowledge of this for a while and then done nothing. Instead, what we've seen is public officials justly for 2023, rather than the security and welfare of these individuals whose family members have been left to their own devices. And we even see the National Assembly pass a law that renders payment of ransom a crime, when government is doing nothing to prevent, to protect, and even to rescue the victims of these attacks. And that is why we're in court. And more often than not, these works, the courts have decided in our favor time and again, even though some of those judgments are yet to be enforced. But because we're a law-abiding citizen, we only continue to do this, draw public attention to these issues, the socioeconomic rights of Nigerians and the human rights issues in it, and compel government to act in the public interest.
Absolutely. And the suit by Sarah, when I heard about it, all I felt was somebody is doing something, somebody's talking about this, and somebody is truly holding the government accountable. I want to ask, and this time I want to direct this to Tawa. And the reason I'm asking you now is because the accountability of the government the accountability of the government by the people is something that Nigerians should learn. I feel like this is something that we have put in the background or at the back burner for quite a while, and nowadays or in recent times people begin to speak more and more about this. Do you think that holding the government accountable can be done in more effective ways, just as Sarah has done? And do you think that this would truly hold the government accountable in the climate that we're in the Nigerian setting that we're in?
Yeah, I think right now, unfortunately, the kind of government that we run in this country, there's nothing embarrassing anymore. If we were in a democratic setting where an embarrassing news about a leader or a politician or if someone comes out and, it causes extreme shame, causes them to sort of resign and get replaced, then yes, it will be important to hold them accountable, to mention all their misdeeds and get such a person kicked out of whatever position they're in. But unfortunately, right now, it seems like the government and government officials are just completely immune. Meaning, like Mr. Kolawole said, these attacks took place until today. Nobody has been persecuted, nobody has resigned, nobody has been jailed. So, I mean, clearly, we almost, as citizens of the country, we all feel like we're at this point where it doesn't matter what we say to the government. It doesn't matter which government official gets called out. It doesn't matter if we specifically point to a person and say he was responsible for that attack. Nowadays, just the judiciary is just not strong enough to take the necessary actions that we, the people, would like to see, which is bringing people to accountability, bringing the government to accountability. And so I think, it's really unfortunate. On the other hand, this also goes hand in hand with even the government security forces. So, for example, I remember when they were switching out the service chiefs, and everyone was, new service chiefs, does that mean things are going to change? And the truth is, if we look at how many attacks have been taking place, nothing has changed. In fact, it's still increasing. And the areas where it's reducing, we were initially excited thinking, it means that there's finally some progress being made. But whereas problem has changed location, that's all that means. So, military strategy and tactics, I think, are very important. It's something that we have to be looking out for. It's tough to even call them out. I don't know if the other day I was talking with this Commodore. He was the one that came on one of these news channels and gave this riveting interview where he talked about how on Fridays military barracks are pretty much wide open if you want because of the mosques. If you want to go in, you can go in. And it caused this whole uproar. Some people were entirely against him for saying all that. Some people supported him because they knew what the real deal was. Again, this is him calling out the system, calling out the cracks within the military, calling out the fact that attacks in Kaduna are taking place in an area and in a state that has the highest concentration of government security force establishments. And yet nothing is still being done. So
I
that,
share your
I think, is really
frustration.
the frustration. Sorry?
I share your frustration.
Yes. So that is the frustration of the average Nigerian today, and that's what makes us feel that we are all on our own. Quite frankly, I don't know. This is the season where politicians come and try to woo us again. I don't know if we are awake enough to put our foot down as a people and really educate the voters to say, look, we are getting the government we deserve. We're getting the government. We are the government. We're the ones voting in these people. So if you're being short-sighted about who you're electing to come into power, it's going to be a problem. And I'll tell you this, I talk very frequently with a lot of military officials, and I'll tell you this, a lot of them also complain. It's funny. When people are in government, they will still blame government. Like in the Kaduna attack, I don't know if you noticed, the Minister of Transportation blamed government, and he is government, for the fact that they hadn't approved the surveillance equipment and so on that they required. So same thing, you have the military personnel, which we know the challenges within the military, including just, there are a lot of issues there that are also contributing to the insecurity. But they themselves also blame the politicians for the challenges as well. So there's a lot of finger pointing.
Definitely, blame game and all of that.
Yes, and it's so unfortunate right now.
Thank you so much, Tawa. I want to ask this, and I'm directing this to Sumbo, and this is in reference to young people, young children, boys, girls that have been enlisted into terrorism. Now, a while ago, when there was the surrender, and I'm coming back to that because frequently we hear, members of ISWAP and members of Boko Haram have surrendered. And then when you see photos of these people, sometimes you can tell that they are really young. And then some of them actually say that they actually do not agree with the mindset or conditioning of these people, of these terrorist groups that they're in, but that they were poached or they were hired or enlisted when they were really young, so they didn't necessarily have a say in what went on. But as they grew older, they realized, okay, this is wrong. We're not supposed to be doing this. So that brings me to this question. The rising number of out-of-school children in Nigeria has been said to contribute to the high level of insecurity, as these children are now vulnerable to predators and can be enlisted into terrorism and banditry. Now, I had to say that first before asking this question. Do you agree with this school of thought that the rising number of out-of-school children plays a role in the high level of insecurity because some of these people are being enlisted into banditry? Do you agree with that?
I do, absolutely. Now, one of the speakers spoke extensively on the issue of social systems and the fact that, we have not really addressed social problems in the country, and that is absolutely true. Now, when you have children who have no education, who have no skill, children who do not even have, a home front, as it were, they do not really, they're not settled in a family, and they're just, left to roam the way they do, especially in the northern part of Nigeria. What do you expect? They become easy targets. Now, you just gave a testimony of some of these young men, explaining their entrance into the terrorist camp. They were young, they were recruited, they had no idea. Now, when you are out on your own and you really don't have anybody watching over you at such a tender age, you really don't know your left from your right or right from wrong. And therefore, of course, you become easy targets. And even beyond that, look, the issue of insecurity that we have in Nigeria has its root in so many different fronts. You have the political, contributor, the economic contributor, the religious contributor. And at the end of the day, all of them, kind of release their issues upon the social sector. Therefore, we need to really look at how we're going to manage this situation. Unfortunately, several times a lot of people have cried about this situation, but those concerned seem to just have paid, a non-listening ear to it. Why? Because just like I mentioned, there are people in Nigeria who benefit from these things. You have people who are in politics who use them as thugs, especially in a time like this as we approach elections. You have, the religion. People who would misinterpret the scriptures to suit, their own selfish intent to say that, the religion does not allow this. I mean, look at the issue of Boko Haram. It actually tells you that Western education, is forbidden, it's not nice. So when you have all of those things put together, you're going to have this number of children. And like I said, when they're unskilled, they're uneducated, crime becomes a very, very easy, thing for them to go into, because it really doesn't require much. It doesn't require much, knowledge to get into. And that's the problem that we have in Nigeria. Unfortunately, it's been rising and rising, and the numbers are scary. Even now, let's look at it. Originally, just like we've been saying on this discussion, originally what we had, this kind of thing was very, very prominent in the northern parts of Nigeria. But take a look at the West now. Look at Lagos, for instance. You'll be shocked at what you see. I live in an estate, on the outskirts of Lagos. And sometimes I look at the number, of young boys, Okada boys roaming the streets, and it's kind of scary. Every single street is not free from it. So we need to begin to put systems in place that we address this issue. Education is very important. But unfortunately, again, sometimes these things just cut across. Even when you think of the solution itself is attracting some problems alongside. So if you talk about, let's continue to build schools and put the people in, and then in some regions of the country, some people go and bomb the schools and, abduct children in the school and all of that. So you begin to wonder, what exactly are we going to do? So the issue of security becomes prominent. And for me, one of the things that I've continually spoken about in this country, the way we handle problems, is to oftentimes handle them in silos. And it doesn't work that way. Everything must be handled at the same time simultaneously. I.e., if you say now, I want to tackle the issue of education without tackling the issue of insecurity, you're wasting time. Okay, and it goes on like that. So we need to be able to put all of these things together. It could, we don't necessarily have to go it all the way, from the end to the beginning, but we could start small and gradually grow. But we must be able to do all of them at the same time, a little here, a little there, and then we grow together. Otherwise, we're just going to be fooling ourselves.
Thank you so much, Sumbo. Thank you. I want to just hear from Elias now, particularly in reference to what you've just said, Sumbo. Elias, I know you've been to different parts of Nigeria. You have you have exposure in different parts of Nigeria, not necessarily just the north. But being that you're currently... Okay, I don't know what's responsible for that noise. Are we good? Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me? Okay, you need to unmute yourself. I can't hear you.
Elias is muted. You need to unmute.
You need to unmute.
All right.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much, Elias. I was about to ask you... Okay, I'm asking you specifically about something Sumbo just said, tackling education, insecurity, providing schools, amenities, and all of that, tackling all of these issues at the same time. Now, the reason I'm asking you this is because, of course, just as you're conversant with things that happen in the south and the east, you're also very conversant with things that go on in the north. I want to ask about what you think about the state of mind of people in the north when it comes to education, being that schools have largely been targeted by terrorism, by terrorists, by the act of terrorism. Schools have largely been targeted. So what would you say the state of mind of the large amount of people in the north is concerning acquiring education when they seemingly are at risk they seemingly are at risk of death, captivity, in terms of if terrorists just appear at their schools and do different things, what do you think the state of mind is concerning education in light of recent developments with terrorism? Elias, can you hear me? Your audio is not very good right now. Your audio is not very good right now. Okay, just let me ask that you mute yourself for now. I'll come back to you with this question. Yes, thank you. I'll come back to you with this question. This is 10 minutes past the hour of 12 on your Women Radio, WFM 91.7, and we're still on the panel discussion titled A Unified Nigeria in Challenging Times of Insecurity. A Unified Nigeria in Challenging Times of Insecurity. My name is Sumta Titilayo Ajama, and I have with me 6 panelists that we're all discussing this subject together. I have with me Tanwa Ashiru, CEO, Bulwark Intelligence Solutions and U.S. Air Force veteran. Also, Kolawole Oluwadare, Deputy Director, Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP. Bridget Osakwe Usifo, National Coordinator, West African Network for Peace Building, WANEP. Also, Elias Yahaya Kayok, Public Affairs Analyst and Media Director, Digital Reasoning Studio. Also, Sumbo Oladipo, Public Affairs Analyst, and Olarinwaju Suraju, Chairman, Human and Environmental Development Agenda Header. So, Olarinwaju, let me come to you now. I'm looking at this subject of insecurity from a vast amount of perspectives, and Nigeria comes to mind when I think about this, particularly because of our motto that says unity and faith, peace and progress. Now, this is a huge message in and of itself, unity and faith, peace and progress. Somebody that has not heard anything about Nigeria would hear this motto and be like, I want to be a part of this country that holds these 4 things as a priority. But in the face of recent happenings, the state of insecurity in Nigeria, how can we better put this message of unity and faith, peace and progress in different ways that people can understand that this is a priority and they can realize the need to work together to foster national development?
Yeah, I think part of the solution would be for us to imbibe those mottos. Unfortunately, we have emphasized that more in words than in deeds. As a matter of fact, if you look at Nigeria as a whole, as it currently stands, we are disunited, we are faithless people, there is no peace, and you can't talk about progress in the absence of peace. The only places where you have the unity and you can also talk about progress is always just in politics. So the politicians and the political elites are united when it comes to the sharing of the loot and also sharing of power. I mean, let me be frank, and this is one of the things that I've said to quite a number of our advocates, and we kind of allow them to get away with some of these, shenanigans when they claim that, there's not sufficient power to the states, because you will see the state government just coming on the television and the media generally to claim lack of power or control, to deal with the security or insecurity in their state. It is total buncombe. It is deceit. It is also insincere. You just listen. I mean, we had a program and one of the EFCC lead prosecutor came around and confidently told the world that many of these governors go away on monthly basis with between 400 and 1.8 billion, 400 million naira and 1.8 billion. And it goes up to 5 billion on a monthly basis by some of these state governors under the disguise of security votes. Now, what is the security vote where you don't have security? And they kind of also benefit from the state of insecurity in their states to actually lay claims to increasing security votes. That is number one. So they have the resources that they are actually fleecing the states of, under the disguise of security vote. Who appoints the commissioner of police in the states? Let nobody deceive you. It is appointed by the governor. It is who the governor wants that the IG posts to the state. They can influence it with money, they can influence it with whatever.
Okay.
But there's clearly where you have a state governor that does not influence who becomes the commissioner of police in the state. The state governors, 36 of them, are members of the police council, where the decision is even made about the administration of the police and even the appointment of the IG. They abdicate this responsibility. It is only just 3 other people, the president, the IG itself, and the chairman of the Police Service Commission, that are also making them 39. So the 36 state governors have not only just the voting strength, they have the capacity to influence anything that goes wrong, but deliberately they wouldn't do it because they still want to continue enjoying that, easy access to unaccounted security votes in the states. So if we're talking about the progress, we need to go back to the grassroots. So whatever it is, and it is usually used for even election. And that is why, like it was reported by Mr. Rotimi Jacobs SAN, that it could go up to 5 billion in some of the states like Rivers, Delta, and the rest of them per month system. It is used by cash. They move them by cash, and they do everything that would continue enjoying that access. So it's telling us that our state of insecurity is not just the abdication of their social responsibility to the people. It is also part of their are freely going there. It is not likely that we're going to have any form of progress, peace